Hi, my daughter lives here. I got a call from two cousins, my son.
This is her daughter's residence. After a frantic call from relatives, she fears her son slaughtered the whole family. Authorities arrive to interview the mother of 41-year-old Martin Munz regarding reports he murdered his entire family. Within minutes, they will step into a crime scene, unaware of the trauma that awaits them inside. As they prepare to enter, the sheer gravity of the situation makes formalities completely irrelevant. The horror is real. They request an immediate emergency medical response to the scene. Inside, they would discover 5 family members, victims of a calculated and fatal domestic shooting. Meanwhile, the man responsible for the massacre surrenders, speaking with a hauntingly calm sincerity. He maintains his sanity, urging the officers to confirm the deaths at the specified address. They soon realize they are dealing with a mass murderer whose victims may extend beyond his family. He admits to prior killings, expressing a total lack of concern for the legal consequences. October 13th, 2023. A quiet meal for Ohio police is interrupted by a chilling tap on the glass. 41-year-old Martin Munz approaches, offering a brief, terrifying admission before the body cameras are even recording. He claims he committed a terrible act, appearing disturbingly rational and composed throughout the encounter. He requests to be handcuffed as the officer prepares to secure the suspect. Perplexed by the random encounter, the officer reports the sudden and unsolicited confession. The suspect approached the patrol unit and admitted to a very serious crime. Additional units are dispatched to the residence provided by the self-confessed killer. The responding officers are baffled as a routine break transforms into a cold-blooded murder investigation. Law enforcement arrives at the home Martin shared with his unsuspecting family members. The residence belonged to his sister Angelic, her husband Anthony, and their father Miguel. 2 children lived there. At first, police hoped it was a mental health episode, but the truth became clear upon entering the residence. He claimed to have taken 5 lives. The mother arrives, explaining she was called to the scene by concerned family members. She fears her son murdered everyone, admitting her long-standing fear and distrust of him. She waited for police, unaware that her son had already turned himself in to authorities. Officers inquire about the suspect's psychological history and the identity of the relatives. She confirms her son's violent past, including a 20-year stint in state prison. His criminal history was defined by various violent infractions and ongoing aggression. The officer instructs the woman to stay back while they clear the house. They cautiously enter the residence, searching for any potential survivors or threats. Announcing their presence, they immediately spot a motionless figure on a bed. The horror is real. They discover 35-year-old Angelic Gonzalez, deceased from a single gunshot wound. They subsequently locate 4 additional victims throughout the different rooms of the house. The victims include 16-year-old Jaden, his stepfather Anthony, and the grandfather, Miguel Gonzalez. In a rear bedroom, they find young Iana, the sole survivor, clinging desperately to life. She was rushed to the hospital, where she miraculously made a full recovery. The rest were not so lucky. Martin had systematically eliminated his entire immediate family. One might expect a crime this heinous to burden the killer with profound guilt. But Martin felt his actions were justified. At the station, he waives his rights to discuss the murders. He describes the slaughter in detail, showing no remorse or emotional attachment to the victims. The detectives face Munz, preparing to document the specifics of the massacre. The investigators admit they are still piecing together the events of the evening. He coldly explains his attempt to kill the whole family, noting that 2 survived. When asked for a motive, he simply blames a perceived lack of respect. He claimed post-prison peace. Systematic unemployment plagued him. Resentment manifested over sustenance. Months of tension preceded. Resentment fueled lethal violence. Brief 2-month residency. Previous history remained unknown. 4 years since release. He drifted through states. Timeline reconstruction requested. Kitchen was found bare. Nephew confirmed food scarcity. He felt intentionally excluded. He confronted his sister. Her indifference triggered rage. Silent warnings went unheeded. Then, he exited the residence. Weapon location remains unknown. He fled with evidence. Location is currently mystery. Prior homicides were revealed. Cold case finally surfaced. Victim: Jamie. 2013. Robbery was the motive. Confession was unusually rapid. Admissions were chillingly factual. Prosecution for murder follows. Decade-old case now solved. Psychopathic honesty was unsettling. Departure was on foot. He walked away calmly, seeking police on foot. Prison was his preference. Release was a mistake. Aimless neighborhood path, fixated solely on surrender. Capture was his desire. Prison was his home. He admitted total guilt. He shot Tone first. Name confirmed as Tone. He targeted the adult. Sister's husband was killed. He murdered his sister. Leaving the area, he encountered his niece. He insists he harbored no desire to fire or end her life then. He spared her in that room, focusing his lethal intent on the boy instead. Ascending the stairs, he located Angel and executed him. Returning below, he shot Tone again before firing a final round into his sister's back. When asked if the niece was hit, he admitted shooting her despite wanting her to survive. He viewed her as harmless and claimed he had no wish to kill her son. He appears conflicted, or perhaps indifferent, regarding his own dark motivations. He maintains he wanted her to live, so he chose not to finish her. The child upstairs escaped while everyone else was distracted, fleeing into the chaotic night. Thus, he killed him. Mr. Nunn reportedly exited prison 4 years ago, specifically in late 2018. His total incarceration spanned 21 years, interrupted by only 4 brief periods of freedom. He confirmed his cycle 4 times. His capture occurred on December 13, 2013. Carrying the murder weapon, he confessed to the firearm charge to mask the homicide. He received 5 years. Martin's life was defined by prison across various criminal counts. In 2002, police arrested him for assaulting his girlfriend before her 4 young children. After 3 months, he was freed, only to burn his girlfriend's residence to the ground in 2003. Such lenient sentencing for violent crimes is certainly cause for concern. Following the arson, he repeatedly violated parole, leading to a constant cycle of reincarceration, mostly driving while impaired or unlicensed. Martin admits his presence on the streets was a public danger. The tragedy developed slowly. He alleges the motive for Jamie's murder was a robbery. Jamie reportedly robbed him earlier that morning. He offered the money, warning that a frightened amateur is often more dangerous than a seasoned criminal. The man began trembling. He urged him to take the cash and leave, promising no retaliation per street codes. Jamie struck him with the pistol, a mistake that allowed the narrator to see his face. Wearing prison clothes and a mask, the assailant fled the scene immediately. Armed with a newly acquired weapon, he spotted Jamie crossing the street that afternoon. He began stalking his target. He watched Jamie bang on a door before the man retreated toward the sidewalk. He withdrew into December. He assumed they were watching for a different individual. On Friday, December 13, 2013, children threw snowballs at a cruiser. Carrying drugs, he attempted to bribe the kids with $500 each to facilitate his escape. That plan failed. Chief arrived. Forced from the vehicle, he admitted possessing the murder weapon used to kill Jamie. Facing 51 years and 9 months, the case landed before an inexperienced family judge. He noted the magistrate was actually a family court official. Using his mother's illness, he manipulated the judge into a favorable plea deal. He secured a 5-year sentence for the gun, bypassing the murder charge entirely. Before his release, 2 homicide detectives arrived to conduct a specialized interview regarding his past. They probed for information as ballistics linked his handgun to the homicide. Throughout the process, he focused solely on whether murder charges were being filed. Martin pressed the individual 3 separate times for an answer. Following that 3rd attempt, he decided all communication would cease. He demanded to be removed from the room immediately. Investigators found 0 evidence suggesting Jamie intended to rob Martin on the day he was killed. The victim was gunned down around 1:30 p.m. on October 30th while operating a street vending cart. Per official reports, Martin's arrest in December 2013 led to the recovery of the firearm used to kill Jamie. By April 2015, forensic analysis confirmed that Martin's handgun was the exact weapon used in the homicide. Despite the ballistics match, the murder in New Jersey remained unprosecuted at that time. The life of Jamie was ended just outside the perimeter of Northgate Park. The crime took place at Northgate Park. The location was situated within North Camden. The site was identified as Northgate Park in the North Camden district. The city was Camden. The incident was dated back to October 13, 2013. The victim was eventually identified as a young man named Jamie Molina. The name Molina was recorded in the official investigative file. Records confirmed the identity of the deceased. This was the grim reality of the situation. The target was described as a young Hispanic male. Martin claimed he had no personal connection to the boy, stating he executed him as retaliation for a robbery. The exact age of the victim seemed irrelevant to the shooter's narrative. Martin viewed the youth as an opportunistic thief who saw him as an easy target for a payday. He believed he had been stalked for days by a vagrant still dressed in prison-issue clothing. It was theorized that the shooting occurred in the early hours, around 4 a.m. Martin corrected the record, stating the robbery was early, but the execution happened between 3 and 4 p.m. He was certain the fatal encounter took place in that mid-afternoon window. Just before the killing, a relative warned him that the neighborhood was a graveyard for many. He ignored the warning and spotted Jamie wearing the same clothes only 2 blocks away. Martin followed him silently as the young man approached a residence, feigning a knock on the door. The pursuit led to a blue house, located 2 doors down from the park entrance. When the victim realized he was being watched, he retreated toward a small patch of grass. Martin spoke a few final words to the young man before opening fire. He recalled the victim's eyes widening in shock just before the shot was fired in 2007. 2 homicide detectives eventually confronted him with the details of the cold case. A female investigator admitted they were struggling to build a case due to a total lack of witnesses. She noted how disturbing it was that a man could be murdered in broad daylight near a public park without anyone speaking up. Martin responded with a cold, calculated silence, offering the authorities no assistance. The detective then questioned how he came to possess the specific weapon that ended Jamie's life. He claimed he had disarmed a random mugger on Broadway, unaware of the surveillance nearby. When she mentioned the cameras at a local shop, Martin defiantly challenged them to check the footage. The room fell silent as the tension mounted. The investigators never returned to follow up on his story. Since that meeting, the authorities have been relentlessly hunting for Jamie's killer. Martin remembered a bald detective from the juvenile or homicide division being present. He recalled a bald investigator and a tall female officer leading the intense questioning. Martin recalled an investigator's unwavering gaze, unsure if the encounter was in 2017. He believed it was 2016, roughly a year before his release from South Woods. He confirmed his time at South Woods, specifically noting his stay in the medical unit. He speculated the victim's family sought closure, a concept foreign to his own desensitized mind. With no hope of freedom, he saw little reason to prolong the silence regarding his past. Jamie's relatives endured over a decade of silence, left entirely without answers regarding the homicide. Local media offered nothing but a brief mention of him as Camden's 45th murder that year. The investigation remained stagnant for years, devoid of any public updates or appeals for information. A decade of stillness vanished when another horrific crime brought every hidden detail to light. Martin discussed these tragedies with a chilling indifference, his voice devoid of any emotional weight. He simply expected his return. He mocked the detectives, claiming the evidence was as simple as fastening pages together. He questioned the motives of the witnesses, viewing the crowded street as a staged competition. The authorities remained silent, acknowledging they were not present to witness the events firsthand. He found it surreal that bystanders would approach a police car to express their animosity. He scoffed at their bravado, questioning why they only confronted him in front of officers. In his mind, a legitimate threat would have waited for the patrol car to depart. He dismissed the neighborhood as foolish and attention-seeking, expressing a total lack of respect. He desired to be locked away and forgotten, retreating into a world of total isolation. He pleaded to be returned to his cell, desperate to vanish from the public eye. The transition to society failed him as he felt alienated by a world lacking respect. Every mundane struggle, from his gait to his unemployment, became a source of mounting friction. Upon moving in with his sister, his weight had reached 320 pounds. He claimed he was being withered by neglect, though he accepted the situation coldly. For months, he felt relegated to the basement, forced into a state of silent obedience. Eventually, his resentment peaked. He refused to remain subservient to anyone any longer. He claimed only sibling loyalty spared her life, despite his repeated warnings to be ignored. He insisted his job search was active, even if his progress was exceptionally slow. He lamented that 21 years of incarceration made him an immediate pariah to employers. The reality of re-entry proved difficult. He reacted with bitterness toward any condescension regarding the physical toll of his daily walks. He recounted trekking 11 miles for work, fueled by anger toward those who denied him aid. The most profound source of his agitation was the knowledge that one target survived. That failure haunted him. Investigators professionally requested a DNA sample to further their forensic analysis of the case. He agreed with total apathy. His only immediate concern was the timing of his next meal in county custody. They confirmed he would be fed upon arrival at the county facility. They reminded him of his constitutional right to decline the search for the record. He gave a hollow affirmation. No public record existed detailing the internal reality of his life within his sister's home. Her decision to shelter him, despite his history, revealed a tragic and profound sibling devotion. He answered her compassion with ultimate betrayal, remaining entirely unbothered by his own actions. Detectives collected his genetic profile while ordering pizza for the killer in their room. They questioned whether he discarded the weapon and his phone during his initial flight. He wavered, caught between feigned ignorance and a dark realization of his predicament. He claimed his device was likely disabled, despite never leaving home without it. Declining water, he remained fixated on the arrival of his pending food order. He simply mirrored the detective's statement with a hollow, rhythmic agreement. The investigator urged him to recall the phone's location before stepping away momentarily. He admitted to having the device initially, but suggested he had discarded it. Compulsion led him to call Lourdes, the woman who eventually alerted the authorities. The interrogators pressed for more information regarding the identity of this woman, Lourdes. He identified her as his former partner, repeating her name with strange insistence. He believed that contacting her would corroborate his entire twisted narrative of events. He was certain she would confirm the timeline if they reached out immediately. She was the individual who managed his accounts and paid his cellular bills. Although she lived in Illinois, he insisted her testimony was crucial to the case. When asked about their recent contact, he encouraged them to verify it themselves. He admitted to speaking with her immediately after the violent incident had occurred. Questions about his brother-in-law's origins yielded only vague, characteristically uncertain responses. He mentioned a supposed British background, though the specific details remained murky. He confirmed the final contact with Lourdes occurred right after the crime. He recounted her asking for a motive, to which he had no answer. A frantic exchange followed where both parties realized the authorities must be involved. Ultimately, it was her call from out of state that alerted police in Ohio. He encouraged the detectives to verify everything through her deep, intimate knowledge. To him, her understanding of his life and actions was absolute. He was convinced she was awake and anticipating the arrival of investigators. He confirmed she was still the one funding his ongoing cellular service. The service was through AT&T, and he promised she would cooperate. He pivoted to their history after guaranteeing she held the entire truth. Their relationship lasted over 2 years until his paranoia and accusations drove her away. He confirmed they had lived together during that volatile and tumultuous period. Violence surfaced when he admitted to assaulting his brother-in-law's domestic partner. After a brief incarceration for the assault, he fled the state for Ohio. Martin had been in Ohio for 2 months, but his actions told a darker story. He FaceTimed his ex-girlfriend, sobbing as he detailed the horrors inflicted on his family. A shocking revelation was beginning to emerge from the suspect's cold testimony. Martin proved capable of both immense grief and irrational, violent rage over food. For roughly 3 months, he found employment at a local rental establishment. He struggled with the desk position, finding the sedentary computer work stifling. A specific encounter with a difficult customer became the final breaking point. He refused service based on a suspicious gut feeling about the man's finances. He told his supervisor that he felt vulnerable and exposed at the front. Lacking any means of self-defense, he quit his job on the spot. That resignation ended the income he used to support his sister's rent. He had initially promised his sister he would find stable, legitimate employment. He spoke of living like a normal person as a distant, unreachable goal. 2 days prior, on Thursday, he had even interviewed with Pivot Staffing. The screening confirmed his sample was positive. He couldn't explain the failure, but the official remained firm. He eventually notified his sister. He realized a total detoxification was mandatory before he could seek employment. She dismissed his concerns, demanding a workaround. He was left completely baffled. He refused to use deceptive kits or fraudulent tactics. He would not stoop to that. That afternoon, the family returned, and the atmosphere turned cold and unsettling. The mother began the evening by ordering her son to prepare a meal. At 10 o'clock at night, she demanded he cook a batch of specialized pastries. He prepared 3 packages for her associates, despite having school the next morning. She showed no concern. Witnessing the neglect, he later asked if the boy had eaten. The boy said no. It became clear that the entire household was starving. She prioritized feeding outsiders while her own family was left with nothing. He retreated to the cellar, his resentment beginning to boil over into a dark fury. Sleep was impossible as his frustration grew into something much more dangerous. The next day, she had a shipment of industrial cleaning supplies delivered to the home. After he spent hours cleaning, they returned and cooked a meal only for themselves. He tried to maintain his composure despite the mounting psychological tension. He lay on his basement cot, his feet raw and weeping with blisters. He eventually went upstairs for food, only to find the kitchen completely bare. Empty. It was the final straw. Malnourished and ignored, he finally reached his limit. He believed his constant labor justified his continued presence in the household. He tried to be useful while job hunting, even cooking for them on occasion. The constant lack of basic respect eventually exhausted his remaining patience. He was done. He never wanted handouts, only the dignity of earning his keep. He preferred to earn his own way through the world. Many assume parolees are unemployable, but that is a common misconception. The real struggle is the psychological friction of reintegrating into a civilian environment. Consider, for example, the typical aggression found in a modern workplace. A coworker acts out, and his instinct is to mirror that hostility immediately. He never learned to bite his tongue or tolerate any form of disrespect. Fear was absent. When he confronted other men, the tension usually escalated toward violence. He expected people to leave their personal baggage at the door. Others rarely liked having their own hostility reflected back at them. In his mind, these disputes had only two ends, a hospital or the morgue. He sought solitary mechanical work to avoid these inevitable human collisions. He eventually applied for a utility role at a local textile warehouse. The plan was simple: maintain machines in isolation and then go home. But life rarely follows such a clean or predictable trajectory. Martin's case illustrates the danger of prison logic surviving in society. Slights are capital offenses. In his distorted mind, he had been slighted one too many times. That perceived dishonor justified a massacre that destroyed his own family. He candidly admitted that individuals like him are fundamentally unfit for the outside world. While others cry for freedom, he spent 21 of 41 years in solitary confinement. He had warned the authorities that his release was a catastrophic mistake. He pleaded to remain, questioning why he was ever sent home. He was quiet and studious there. Though he initially resisted, his behavior eventually transitioned into a state of quiet, total compliance. Authorities proceeded with his discharge. Download. People died. He claimed that keeping him confined would have prevented this entire tragedy. He dreaded his release. Lacking options, he manipulated a woman into providing him shelter. Lourdes or his sister? Neither. He charmed an online contact to secure a residence, seeking refuge. She handled everything financially, allowing him to exist in a state of total dependency. She purchased whatever he wanted, including electronics, without ever questioning his reclusive lifestyle. He accepted her gifts, then sabotaged the relationship with false claims of her infidelity. Uncomfortable with being cared for, he fled and began a period of aimless wandering. He stayed in Texas at the San Houston base for 9 months before moving to New Jersey. After 2 months in Marlton, he eventually returned to his original roots in Illinois, residing. He felt he was fundamentally incompatible with life in the outside world. After the murders, he called Lourdes. He provided a full confession of his actions. He admitted the killings. When she asked why, he offered no explanation for his violence. He acknowledged the mistake, yet remained detached from the finality of the situation. She notified the authorities, which led to the rapid police response at the scene. Had he remained silent, the victims might have gone unnoticed while he disappeared. The bodies would have rotted for weeks before anyone thought to check the house. He casually mentioned pizza toppings amidst the horror. His spotless prison record suggests a disturbing psychological comfort within institutional walls. He thrives in captivity, though his return cost his entire family their lives. He boasted that evading the authorities would have been an incredibly easy task. He planned to sell his sister's car in Pennsylvania after repainting it. By vanishing, he intended to leave only ashes behind, a small fire. He viewed the destruction as art. He insisted his desire for prison was an honest choice, regardless of his insanity. He considered the cell home, unable to function or maintain a life outside. Relationships mattered little. He saw no value in the world beyond confinement. The pressures of work and bills were overwhelming. Supporting a partner was impossible. Lacking resources, he saw no difference in his lifestyle choices. He felt a desperate need to escape the woman and his domestic life. Bereft of assets, he viewed a return to prison as his only salvation. He understood the rigid, predictable maneuvers of life inside a small box. Inspections and guard violence were simply familiar, accepted parts of his everyday existence. He respected the yard's etiquette, where men apologized for minor social accidents. Society lacked the basic respect found within the prison system. Minor slights fueled his lethal resentment. He felt people outside were inherently disrespectful. Incapable of survival, he yearned for home. He remained uncertain about the future. He contemplated the death penalty, unsure how the legal system decided on execution. He faced the prospect of death with a cold sense of uncertainty. 3 died. He hoped the remaining 2 survivors would also perish. He harbored a specific malice toward him, hoping for a fatal medical error. He targeted her. No, his motives remained unclear. They began working together at a local automotive repair shop. After making a mistake, he preemptively blamed his coworker before the shop owner could investigate. During the drive home, he deceptively claimed he had actually praised the man's professional work. The victim realized he was being used as a scapegoat for another man's technical failures. Despite claims of protection, this betrayal marked the first fracture in their deteriorating relationship. Friction soon returned, fueled by cultural tensions between the staff and their diverse management team. Superiors treated the employees with cold indifference, forcing them to perform menial, degrading tasks. He was told to simply obey and remain silent. Earning $50 daily for manual labor felt like an insult to his mechanical expertise. His requests to demonstrate his skills were met with demands for absolute, quiet submission. The conflict escalated until he was suddenly accused of harboring deep-seated racial prejudices. He countered that if genuine hatred existed, his actions would have been far more violent. He then issued a chilling threat, claiming he could kill without feeling a single regret. Martin eventually proved those words were entirely true. Martin pleaded guilty to 4 murders, resulting in 4 consecutive life sentences behind bars. He received 16.5 additional years for the attempted murder of his niece. The tragedy left a young survivor without her parents or her grandfather in one night. We appreciate your viewership. Explore our archive for more deep dives into criminal psychology. Select the featured video for another unsettling case, or view our most recent investigative report. This chilling descent into the mind of Martin Munz serves as a haunting reminder that the thin line between a functioning society and absolute chaos is held together by one thing: mutual respect. When we strip away the humanity of those around us, especially those we call family, we create a void where resentment festers and prison logic takes root, turning minor slights into capital offenses. The tragedy of the Munz family isn't just a story of a broken man. It is a profound warning about the unseen scars of long-term isolation. 21 years of confinement didn't just punish a criminal. It deleted his capacity for empathy, replacing the warmth of kinship with a cold, transactional view of existence. It teaches us that freedom is more than just walking out of a gate. It is the difficult daily work of emotional reintegration. Let this case be a call to action, to recognize the signs of deteriorating mental health, to bridge the gap for those struggling to find their place in a world that has moved on without them, and to cherish the safety of our homes. Justice is found in the courts, but peace is built at the dinner table. May we never forget the victims, and may we strive to build a world where respect is earned through love, not demanded through a lens of violence.